Cody, great beard.
Oh, wow. What a beard.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, man, I don't know. It froze up for a second. I couldn't tell if y'all can hear me or not.
Yeah, we can.
All right, so let me just preface what I'm going to say real quick. I like to consider myself, I know in the comments they were roasting me, but I'm a common sense Trump supporter. I don't believe that you have to wholeheartedly agree with one man in all of his decisions or a party. And when it boils down to it, I don't think that the government should have any say on anyone's health care or body. That being said, when it comes to healthy, consensual pregnancies, I think the decision should be up to the man and the woman and no one else, unless the woman has a medical emergency.
Why the man?
Because it takes two to make that child. I have a daughter, and
no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
I have a daughter.
Doesn't. You can have a child without intercourse, right?
How?
IVF.
Okay, well that's what I'm saying. The circumstances are if a man and a woman have consensual sex, and then they're result in a pregnancy, and the baby is healthy, and there's no medical emergency to the woman. Why is it fair that the woman gets to choose what happens, and even if the man wants to keep it, why does the man have no?
Yeah, because how do you split the vote, right? Let's say the woman doesn't want to keep the baby and the man does. Well, who wins? Who do we?
There's no winning or losing.
No. Who gets to make that decision? Then what?
Because
if you're saying if they disagree, then the woman has to carry the baby. Then what you're saying
Tie
is
goes to
men
the runner.
ultimately get the choice in what women do with their bodies.
No, the woman decided to have consensual intercourse with a man, and the result of a pregnancy. You can't just say, oh well, I know you want to have a kid, I know you want this kid, but I don't want it. So
no, I'm asking you. So let's just say I get somebody pregnant, right? And she says, I don't want to keep this. I don't want to be pregnant. I don't want to have a baby. And I say, I want you to have that baby. Well, we're at an impasse here, right? Because she says she doesn't want it. I say I do. We both voiced our concerns. So if we force that woman to have the baby, then we are saying that the man gets to make that choice, right?
I mean, it's between both of you, but at the end of the day...
But it's not. If we disagree, it will always fall on if one person wants to have the baby, then they have to have it. And in every case where a woman wants to have the baby, she gets to have the baby. In every case. In every single case, because she's the one carrying the baby. Even if I tell her no... Do I have then the right to make sure she doesn't have that baby? What if she wants to keep the baby and I don't?
Then it's simple. The man should not be on the hook for the next 18 years of his life to pay for that child.
It sure seems like you're giving the deference to the man in every situation. If she wants to keep the baby and I don't, then I don't have to pay for it. If she doesn't want to have the baby and I do, then not only does she have to carry that baby, but she'll also be obligated to take care of that baby, right?
No, she won't be forced to take care of it. Once she gives birth and the baby is viable to be away from the mother.
So
the man who wanted to keep it.
If we disagree, then women are allowed to be incubators for the man who wants the baby. If there's a disagreement, is that correct?
No, what I'm saying is if two people have consensual intercourse.
We don't need to keep saying consensual intercourse. We've already covered that. What we need to address, the part that we have a problem with here is I'm saying that there's two people involved. I'm agreeing with you. I'm granting that to you. There's two people involved. In every scenario that you just laid out, the man gets his way. In every scenario. If he doesn't want to take care of that baby, he doesn't have to. If he wants to take care of that baby, he gets to force the mother to carry that baby, which, by the way, is a risk to her own health, not only physically, but mentally. It could cost her her life. But it's okay because once she goes through that process, he's going to be there.
If it's a medical emergency, then the mother, obviously, no matter what...
You're not addressing what I say. I need to go back. I need you to go back. When does the woman get a choice? Is it only when the man agrees with what she's doing? Is that the only time a woman gets a choice?
That's absolutely correct in this scenario.
If the man doesn't want it, then the woman can just have the baby, but she shouldn't have to keep the man on the hook for 18 years. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so he's off the hook. When is the woman ever off the hook?
What do you mean when the woman's off the hook? I mean,
when is she ever off the hook? Because even if she doesn't want to keep the baby, she still has 9 months of a pregnancy, which again puts her life in danger, which forever changes the physical and chemical makeup of her body, right? She has to go through all that. Why? Because you want her to incubate that child because you guys had consensual sex.
I mean, I just don't think abortion should be viewed as a sort of birth control after the fact.
Nobody's saying that. Again, you're running from this, and I think you're running for it because you. Okay, so you're saying in every scenario that we've laid out, the woman gets overridden by the man. Whatever the man wants actually is what happens. If the man wants to keep the child, we keep the child. If the man doesn't want to keep the child, then he gets to leave her to deal with it on her own. It's a good deal for men. It's a pretty good deal for men.
Oh, that's not saying the man gets to decide what happens no matter what. If the woman wants to keep the baby, if the woman wants to keep the baby and the man doesn't, he should be able to not be on the hook for that child. For the next 18
everybody
years.
has heard this. Let me try and help you with this.
Keep repeating the same illogical points
Brother,
over and over and over. Like it means something different.
In which situation does the man not get what he wants?
In what situation the man does not get what he
in those
wants?
two scenarios we laid out? When does the man not get what he wants?
It's up to two people. You can't just say
no. Brother, are you going out of your way to not hear this question?
No, they both lose no matter what.
Okay, I'll try this more simply. All right, let's go through each scenario individually. First scenario, the man wants to keep the baby, the woman doesn't. You believe that the woman should be required to carry that baby through the pregnancy, and then the man will be obligated to take care of it, right? Financially. And then the woman is off the hook. She can sign off that obligation to you. She doesn't have to be a parent, right? We agree on that?
Yep.
Okay, great. So in that scenario, the man gets what he wants, right? And the woman has a baby against her will, correct? We agree on that?
I wouldn't say against her will, but
No, she doesn't want to.
It's 100% against her will.
But it was two of them that made
No,
will.
Cody, please. She doesn't want to. Now you can justify it, but you can't say that it's not against her will. It is, correct?
If you want to phrase it that way, go ahead.
Great. Now the other scenario happens. Okay. And now the woman wants to keep the baby, but the man doesn't. So the woman, she has the baby, and the man doesn't have to take care of it, right?
Yes.
So it looks an awful lot like no matter what, men are making the decisions. If they want to be a parent, they get to force somebody to continue pregnancy. If he doesn't want to be a parent, then he has no obligation to be a parent. He can just bounce. And by the way, we've got a real problem in this country and around the world that it's almost impossible to decide if consent was given. So what you're laying the groundwork for, and based on your opinions of everything else, man, woman have sex. She says it's non-consensual. He says it is. Then what do we do? Now what do we do? The woman says it wasn't consensual. The man says it was. There's no evidence because they had sex, right? Nobody knows if there was consent. But the man wants to keep the baby, and the woman doesn't. Now what do we do?
Well, that opens a whole other can of worms because
I know. What do we do?
Well, no, I'm saying right there with the whole consensual, non-consensual thing. That just goes that you just made the point.
Yeah, what do we do?
There's so many things you have to put into place.
Let's talk about it. What would we do?
I don't have all the answers for that.
Okay, well, let's walk through it. So this woman says it's non-consensual. The man says it was consensual. She goes to court, right? She's like, I'm going to press charges. They come to her and they say, what evidence do you have? And she says, I never gave consent. And they go to him and he said, yeah, she gave consent, obviously. Like, I would never do that. I would never have sex with somebody without consent. I'm a Christian. I'm a good Christian man, whatever he says, right? Now what? Now you have two people who disagree on consent. One of them's pregnant. Now what do we do with that baby?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like I said,
in your scenario, Cody, the man decides he wants it, and it's her word against his, so she's forced to give birth.
It would have to come down to a decision between both of them, two consenting adults.
So the rapist, the person who sexually assaulted the woman is now he's in on the decision too.
Well, you just sat there and said there was no proof that it was not consensual.
Well, no, I said it wasn't consensual, but the man says it is, and there's no proof. So now you can grape women, and as long as you do it in a way where they're not going to be able to prove that they didn't consent. You're going to be able to use women as incubators.
Never said that.
I didn't say you said that. I said that's the scenario that we just played out.
Yeah, I'm 100% that. I'm 100% against any kind of.
Okay, so how would we make sure that doesn't happen?
How do you make sure what doesn't happen?
How do we make sure that women aren't able to be graped and forced to carry their grapist's baby? How do we make sure that doesn't happen?
Same thing with you do now. You go to court. It's
no, that doesn't work because again, you can't prove consent, right?
It's your word against theirs. There's no evidence. That's why grape cases aren't adjudicated. That's why there's thousands of grape kits sitting untested. Do you see what you're saying? And you're saying in the case, the tie goes to the man. The man wants the baby. The woman's forced to have it. Her word doesn't matter for anything. That is your scenario you're setting up.
But it goes the same way.
If you and I are together and we're married or something, can I force you? Can I force you to break your bodily autonomy? If I want you to have a vasectomy so we don't have any more kids, right?
I mean,
in your scenario, I can't do that. Because you're the man and you decide.
Cody, it's crazy that you think it's crazy that you think that if two people consensually have sex, that the woman is not allowed to opt out of that if the man says so, but the man is allowed to opt out. Where's the consent obligation from the man? He consented. Why doesn't he have to take care of that child? Because he didn't want it. So when he consents, there's no repercussions. But if she consents, there's repercussions.
No.
How's the repercussions? I'm saying that
because you said if the man does not want to have the baby and the woman does, then he doesn't have to take care of that baby. But he consented to that sex too. So on one side, you're saying because she consented, she has to carry this pregnancy through. And on the other side, you're saying even though this man consented, he gets to change his mind later.
Cody, you probably don't know this, but the most dangerous time in any woman's life is when she's pregnant. Just the act of forcing for a woman to give birth, you put her in the most danger she will ever be in her life.
See, that's what I'm saying. No one's forcing that. The problem is, what I'm saying is
when you force a woman to give birth, you don't understand this, but statistically, she's now at the most dangerous time of her life.
I understand that. I have a wife and I have 2 daughters. I understand.
So let's do this.
Poor daughters.
Let's do this.
Your
Let's say
poor daughters.
Well, let's
poor daughters.
Let's talk
put
about
them
it,
in
Cody.
this scenario you're talking about.
Cody,
Let's talk about Cody's daughters.
Cody, let's talk about it. Let's say your daughter's freshman in college. Okay. Let's say your daughter's a freshman in college. Calm down, Cody. Calm down, Cody. Let's say that your daughter is a freshman in college. She comes home to you and she says, "Dad, I'm pregnant. I didn't even consent to this, but I took it to the school. I took it to the police, and they say there's no evidence. They can't press charges. But the person who raped me wants to have this baby, and now I'm forced to have this baby. What do you do, Cody?"
Yeah, well, my daughters are 7 and 4, so
what do you do, Cody? I know, that's why I said when they're a freshman in college. What would you do here?
I understand that my daughters are 7 and 4.
What would you do in this situation, Cody?
This is your line of logic, Cody. This is what you want for women. This is what you want for your daughter's future. Now let's hear it. What do you do?
No,
obviously in this scenario, if you're going to stay consistent, your daughter's carrying that baby, right? And maybe she doesn't want to raise it so she can give it to her rapist after 9 months, right?
You're also talking about a very unique situation. I'm primarily talking about that's why
Cody? Cody?
I didn't hear you.
Yeah, well, that's because you were talking, and I'm asking you a question, and I'd prefer if you answered the questions I asked, not just whatever you want to say. So in this scenario that you've just laid out, because she went to the police said, "Sorry, we can't do anything. There's no evidence. We can't charge him with this crime. There's no evidence." In this scenario, because he wants to keep the baby and she doesn't, she's required to have that baby. And even if she doesn't want to keep that baby, she still has to go through the whole 9 months of pregnancy, have the baby, and then turn that baby over to the man who raped her. That's the scenario you laid out here, Cody.
No, you lay the scenario out.
I know, but the parameters that you laid out, this is what would happen, Cody.
It's your line of logic.
I get where you guys are coming from. That's why when I first started saying this, I was talking about primarily, which is what most pregnancies are from, is consensual sex.
I don't care. You're refusing to answer this question. You are a bit of a coward, Cody.
I'm not. How am I a coward?
Because you won't answer the question.
You can't answer that.
Answer the question.
You can't answer that question because
yes, you can, Cody. Under the scenario you laid out, if you can't prove that it was grape, then the man and the woman have equal say on whether or not they keep that baby. In this scenario, your daughter doesn't want to keep the baby. The man who raped her does. Under your scenario, your daughter would be forced to carry that child through 9 months and then hand that child over to the person who raped her. That is the scenario that you laid out. I'm just, if you were honestly, like if you weren't so prideful, what you would do right now is be like, you know what? I never thought this through all the
I
way.
did tell
But
you that.
instead, what you're
I said I
doing
wasn't talking
is
about a
you're
scenario 'cause I
doubling
hadn't
down.
thought about
Okay, so
that.
I'll give you an opportunity then. Now knowing that this could happen to your child, do you think maybe the best solution is to let the woman choose what to do with her body? And that way we don't have to worry about somebody being raped. We don't have to worry about any of these other scenarios. We just say, ultimately, the woman's choice to what she does with her body is her choice. Just like in this case, it should be your daughter's choice. It shouldn't be your choice. It shouldn't be his choice. It shouldn't be the school's choice. It shouldn't be the government's choice. It should be her choice, right?
Yes, absolutely. I'll tell
Okay,
you
so
what,
that's all I'm saying.
I'm
That
absolutely okay with relenting
perfect,
on the fact that I did not think of that scenario. I am
perfect.
more than capable of understanding that I do not think of every scenario. I'm more than capable of understanding that it's easier said than done. It really is.
Look, dude, I used to hold your same opinions. I understand what you're saying.
my
I
my initial thing with this whole thing is that the healthcare or the health of a woman or a man should not be in any states or federal. It should be up to the individual alone of that person. I'm just simply saying that when two people have a child or get pregnant, it's not fair entirely. Now, let me say it before. It's You have to understand that the man has feelings and the man has a choice too. It's heartbreaking for a man.
agreed. Yeah, all this stuff is heartbreaking. None of this stuff is stuff we want to happen.
Sit there and know that you got your girlfriend, your wife, your fiance pregnant, and for some reason she doesn't want to carry the baby. It's heartbreaking that the man can't even sit there and say, "Hey, look, I want to keep this baby. Can we please keep it?" And she says no. Then you have to live with knowing that you could have had a kid and you're not going to have a kid because the woman decided she doesn't want one. It's heartbreaking.
Every time you decide to have consensual sex, that is a possibility. And if you can't deal with that, because I agree that is heartbreaking, I feel for you there, but it's not, in no way can you then violate a woman's bodily autonomy. And that's another issue you're bringing up, because consensual sex, right? Sex is for pleasure. Right? Even in animals have sex for pleasure. Humans have sex for pleasure. Just because you engage in sex, that's a whole other philosophical debate about if consenting to sex means consenting to pregnancy. I can consent to driving. That doesn't mean I consent to being in a car accident, Cody.
Yeah, you're right. That's what I'm saying. Yes, primarily, above all, the woman's health is the top priority.
You are a good dad.
I appreciate that. Like I said, I really didn't want to bring my daughters in. It got, I know you guys.
That's what changed my opinion, man. My opinion changed a lot once I had a daughter and I started looking at the world through like the lens that she was going to grow up in.
My whole world changed when I had daughters.
And the truth of the matter is, and you may like this, you may not, but like the statistically, the most danger that your child is going to face or your daughters are going to chase are going to be men. And if you want to go deeper into the statistics, it's members of your own family, or if you go to church, members of your church. Like statistically speaking, those are the biggest threats to your daughter. And that's the thing that sucks about being a dad, is that like, I guess it doesn't suck about being a dad, but I guess it was eye-opening to me, is that I realized how much of my life I was able to breeze through without really having to worry about the implications of what I was doing. And then I had a daughter, and I'm like, oh my God, like the implications of everything she does, and my vote and my voice, like this all has implications for your daughters long term. We live in a country where men make rules for women, and we have to stop that. Like, we've got to get rid of that.
That's actually a really good point. I wanted to ask Felice this question just because I was very curious. I've never asked this question, never thought about it till about 15 minutes ago. Felice, would your opinion on the matter change if we were a matriarchy and the government was ran primarily by women? Just curious.
No, it's not. It's truly not that. It's really not about a matriarchy or patriarchy. It's about bodily autonomy. And it's interesting for conservatives and Republicans, unless you get into a religious, moral type of argument, we should never want the federal government or state governments legislating anything to do with medical care. That is a slippery slope, right? Like, we don't want to set a precedent that the government decides anything about our health care. So no, it's not. We do live in a patriarchy where men are trying to legislate women's bodies, but no, it is a slippery slope for everyone. The same way It's just that men's bodily autonomy, if legislation was ever brought up, right, introduced, that would in some way violate men's bodily autonomy. Imagine if we said one day, well, states' rights, there's going to be some states where there's forced vasectomies, but if you don't like it, man, you could just move out of the state you grew up in, where your community is, where your family is, where your job is, where everything you've ever known is. Just some states, men will be forced to be sterilized, and that's fine. You guys would lose your shit. It would never happen. It's just put yourself in the shoes of women. All we want is the same bodily autonomy that we grant to fetuses and that we grant to males. We want to be able to make decisions about our bodies.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And look, I'll be honest with you. I mean, you guys didn't sway my vote to a different party, but I mean, you did make me, kind of step back and maybe think that, and again, mine is purely based on opinion, because I will never have a child like out of my own body. It will never happen for me. And if I'm being honest, I'm kind of glad, because it's a scary thing to think about. And I understand, but it was scary when my wife was pregnant the first time. I was terrified. I didn't want to make the wrong move or anything like that. And like I said, that's why I like to come on these panels. I like to discuss. I have no problem talking with people who don't have the same views as me. I actually enjoy it more because it opens my eyes, and hopefully I can open some other people's eyes. And
keep coming back, and we'll talk about other. We'll get your vote changed by November.
Hey, I appreciate that. I really do. Like I said, man, when it comes down to it, you're right, Felice. It is up to the woman. I still believe there's a few things that could be not changed or anything, but there's a lot of situational dictates on that. But at the end of the day, it's the woman's body, it's the woman's health. And there's plenty of things, and that's one thing I don't agree with on the Republican side, how extreme they are on that choice. Like it's not so cut and dry. A lot of things in politics aren't, and we always go one too far left or one too far right, and we can never just find common ground. So,
Cody, you know what the leading cause of death for a pregnant woman is? Homicide.
Oh, wow.
Homicide. When I say it's the most dangerous time of women's life to be pregnant, I truly mean it. And that's what we're saying, like, because it's always men versus women. And think about the argument. Think about Trump being accused so many times of sexual assault, and people just saying, well, she just wanted money. She just wanted that. No one believes women anyways. So it can't be a consent argument, because it will always be your daughter versus whatever the guy says. And the guy, more often than not, will be believed. And there's not going to be any evidence to the contrary. And that's the point. And that there was a lawsuit in Texas that was about this. A guy who had been previously caught for domestic abuse against a woman was trying to force her to give birth in Texas. This is something that is going on. Think about it. If you're in an abusive situation, this is used as leverage. And I agree with you, Tony. Cody, if it's two loving people in a couple, if I was in a loving relationship and I got pregnant, yeah, of course I'm going to lovingly consult the person who loves me, and we created a child together, and go through that together. But that's not the situation that most women are in. That's why ultimately, if you needed to make, like, think about it this way. If you had cancer and it's stage 4, you'd been through like 5 rounds of chemo, and it was me and you in it to the end, and I'm like, no, please don't die. I want to force you to stay alive. I'm forcing you to make a decision about your body, even though you're saying, I can't take any more chemo. I'd just like to die now. You know what I'm saying? It's your decision. Just like ultimately, while painful, and I understand exactly what you're saying, and I feel for you, it just has to be the person's decision whose body it is.
Absolutely. I agree. I agree with you on that. It's a tough situation. It's a tough decision to make for anyone, and it's just, and I'm 100% in agreement that women just they do have a disadvantage on a lot of things. Like like you said earlier, man, you don't realize how much of a breeze it is until you are either living with women, like a wife, or whatever, or you have daughters. It's like you open your whole world up, and when it comes to that kind of stuff and abortion and whatnot, I mean, I for the most part, I try to keep my mouth shut, because I do agree that women should be the ones talking about it more than men. I don't see why men can't have an opinion. It's okay to have an opinion on it. It shouldn't be a fact. I mean, we can have ideas on it and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you guys are right when it comes to that. Women are the ones to go through it, and like you said, that's why I opened it up with the consensual sex part, because that's from experience of myself, like of being in that situation. So it hits home about that kind of stuff, when you don't get the choice to keep that kid.
Yeah, I agree with you. We got to get to the next person. Come back again, Cody. Let's talk again. My goal is to change
I
your vote by
followed you,
November.
Cody.
Hey, hey, I appreciate it. Let's see, man. Let's see. We got what, 3 more months?
Yeah, let's get after it. All right, dude. See ya.